So tactic one then, and there's a fair bit of noise about this one at the moment, but it's moving from a sort of lead gen model to a demand gen model then. First of all, how did that sort of transition come about for you? And secondly, what advice would you give to anyone moving focus from lead gen to demand gen?
Yeah, I think when I started at GetAccept, they were already certainly doing some parts more demand gen focused, but some of them were still, I would say, a bit more in terms of acquiring leads, right? So the first thing they all actually, before I joined, they had already like ungated all their content and all of the things like that. So that was great for me, obviously. But one of the first things I did that I think has been like incremental to our success and our demand programs here, I think was to start looking at the funnel from like a demand gen perspective. So looking at our sales or marketing funnel, whatever you call it, from all the way from lead, deal, pipeline, ARR, and actually splitting that up into what we call high intent. So where someone have actually raised their hand and said they're ready to talk to sales, and then make one funnel for that and make one funnel for everything else. And for us, that was, free accounts, webinars, maybe events and so on. And when we did that, it was so clear that most of the ARR was coming out from the high intent funnel, but most of the inbounds were coming into the low intent funnel, if you say. It was such a clear misalignment in where we put our efforts and where we, pushed our activities, and the ARR was coming out from somewhere completely different. So I think that was the, most important exercise to do to really get the buy-in from both the management, but also the company in general to like, okay, maybe we need to focus differently here. So that was for sure. And that is a super easy exercise I think everyone can do at their company. Like how much is actually coming into your high intent funnel and how much are coming into the more low intent funnel. Because I think many companies have a similar story. Yeah,
you hear about a lot of companies paying a lot on Google ads and paid social ads, getting people to download content, fill out forms that never ever become a customer. So I guess that's what you're talking about there, really. You're talking about, okay, well, whichever way they sort of come to us, do they actually end up being a paying customer, which is ultimately what you want. And then you can sort of focus the efforts there. So Chris Walker talks a lot about this, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the biggest issues that I see, I did a poll for a couple of months ago where I asked, marketers how much money they spent on search versus social as an example, because often we view paid search or Google or Bing or all of those, we see that as more of a capture demand tactic where we are trying to harness the existing demand and try to get them to take action. And then we have the more social part where we're actually trying to build our brand and build that demand. And most companies in that kind of poll answer that they put like 80-90% plus into this capture part and then very little budget into the more social, the brand part. And I think that says so much as well. We're so eager to put money into where we can, see revenue coming out from the other end. But maybe the case is, maybe they heard about us from the first time somewhere else. Maybe they saw us in a social ad and then they decided to Google for our name, right? So I think that's such an important distinction to make.
Yeah, and it's a mindset shift, isn't it, as well? Yeah. Because you've got CEOs and leadership teams who are so used to seeing MQLs, SQL, seeing that funnel sort of working through. They feel a little bit more comfortable with that rather than you thinking about, let's just pay stuff, not gate it. Let's get it in front of our audience and let's start to build awareness of who we are as a business so that at some point in that journey, their journey of maybe thinking about a solution like ours, when they think, actually, I need it, they're thinking of GetAccept rather than doing a Google search and then getting a list of 6 different companies and then sort of pitching them against each other. So it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, and I would say that is one of the more strategic shifts that we have made at GetAccept. Is like moving away, because we were really heavy on the paid search part before, moving away a bit from that and getting into the more, how can we build our brand on social, and then eventually that will end up in search, especially budget-wise. And we are actually doing quite an interesting test right now in one of our markets, like cutting paid search completely, just to see if it matters, right? I've been wanting to do that for so many years, and finally I was allowed to. So I'm really excited to see, because I really believe that a lot of, the revenue that comes through paid search will come in anyways. We are seeing organically, right? And it will be really fun to see the results.
You'll have to come back on and tell us about them. That sounds
for
really
sure.
Interesting.
I'm hoping it will, confirm my hypothesis and not.
Indeed. And what sort of metrics are you tracking now? Then now you've kind of shifted that sort of model a bit.
Yeah, obviously we still have MQLs in the mix. Like it's a good sign. It's a good early indicator of something coming in, right? But we obsess more over high intent MQLs, obviously. So MQLs coming from people that have raised their hand, either a demo request or a contact form. Then we look into deals. So of those, how many, what are the percentages that we've actually created our first meeting towards? And from those meetings, how much is the pipeline worth? That is maybe the most accurate way we can forecast how much revenue will be closed down the line. We have an approximate sales cycle of, 1 month or so, give or take. So then we can if we have a pipeline built up this month, we are usually closing, I don't know, say 40, 50%, then we should see this in the coming month. So I think that is pretty powerful. So I think and it has been pretty clear, like from when I started, we had just launched our free account model, freemium, and like our leads went through the roof, right? But but we didn't really see that come out on the other end. It didn't really turn into revenue. And now I would say that the situation we probably have, I don't know, the lowest MQL volume we've had since maybe 2 years, but we have the highest high intent volume and we have the highest pipeline. So it's like that is, and it has taken a long time to get there. I think that's so important as well. It takes time. And it has not all been rainbows and sunshine, but now we're finally getting there.
I can imagine.